So the 2023 season of the Kansas City Chiefs was one that was so historic, I decided to dedicate an entire video detailing the main highlights, takeaways, and storylines of every single week. From the stressful ups and downs of the regular season to the thrilling playoff wins and even the back-to-back Super Bowl victory, let's talk about it. But first, how about those? First up, this entire video was made possible by the sponsor of today's video, Good Chop, but more on them later because there's an entire historic Chiefs season to recap and relive. Well, the 2023 season kicked off with the Chiefs celebrating their Super Bowl 57 victory over the Eagles, who are still, to this day, crying, whining, moaning, and complaining about the field conditions. So they cry, and the Chiefs unveil their new banner with a full crowd in attendance. Also in attendance was Chris Jones and his wannabe Soprano agents, as he was still in the midst of that holdout over contract negotiations. Travis Kelce was also sadly absent from the active roster because he hyperextended his knee on the last play of practice a few days before the game. But no worries, because the Chiefs have Sky Moore entering his second year, MVS, the trusty vet, and Kadarius Toney, who is expected to take over as wide receiver one, right? Well, after a Goff to Amon-Ra touchdown that put the Lions up 7, Rashee Rice was actually the one who put the Chiefs on the board first, catching his first ever NFL touchdown, which we would soon find out was a bit of foreshadowing of what this season would look like for Rice once everything was said and done. Mahomes then went scorched earth on the 2-minute drill before halftime, throwing a couple of beauties. One to MVS for 34 yards, then another to Justin Watson for 26, before finding Blake Bell in the end zone to put the Chiefs up 14-7 at the half. And this is where things went south, because in the third quarter, Kadarius Stonehands Toney dropped a perfectly placed ball that fell right into the hands of Brian Branch, who proceeded to house it 50 yards for the score. KC was able to retake the lead with a couple of field goals, but the Lions answered with a David Montgomery touchdown to go up 21-20 in the fourth quarter. And with the game on the line and roughly 2 minutes to go, the Chiefs put together a drive for the ages. Kadarius Toney dropped what would have been a big gain on first down, probably field goal range as well. Then a holding penalty on Donovan Smith negated what would have been a 17-yard catch by Sky Moore. Then Jawan Taylor, who had been getting blasted by Chris Collinsworth all night for his alleged early get-off time and alignment, finally did get called for a false start, making it 4th and 25. Good God, that is a long way. Mahomes put on his Superman cape, though, and somehow threw a catchable ball to Clark Kent, aka Sky Moore, who couldn't reel it in. Though, to be fair, it was a tough grab that was possibly intended, maybe, for Justin Watson, and the Chiefs turned the ball over on downs, losing to Detroit 21-20 after they got the one and only first down needed to ice the game. So with that, the boys headed down to Jacksonville for a little bounce back game against the Jaguars. Chris Jones thankfully reached a one-year deal with the Chiefs, so he was back, as was Travis Kelce from his knee injury. And while the game started out in absolutely disgusting fashion, just look at these first half drives, both Jones and Kelce made their presence felt. Travis Kelce scored his first touchdown of the season and punted the ball into the nosebleeds to celebrate. Chris Jones looked dominant in his return as well. Many were wondering, how would Chris Jones look and perform after holding out all of training camp, preseason, then missing the first game of the year? Would he be in good enough shape to really make an impact? Well, he clearly was, having multiple pressures on Trevor Lawrence, recording 2 QB hits, a sack and a half, and a tackle for loss. And this game is where we started to suspect that the Chiefs defense might be legit. They dominated the Jags offense, holding them to 271 total yards, sacking Trevor Lawrence 4 times, holding them to over 3 in the red zone, only allowing them to score 9 points on 3 pathetic field goals. The Chiefs offense, on the other hand, did struggle a bit as well. There were certainly some positives there, like Isaiah Pacheco rushing for 70 yards on 12 carries. Sky Moore also had 70 yards, believe it or not, thanks in part to a big broken play, as well as his first touchdown of the year on a nice back shoulder catch. The offense also had multiple drives stall out, having to punt 4 times, as well as 2 turnovers. But at the end of the day, they got the dub and moved to 1-1. Concerns over the Chiefs' offense were temporarily put on pause because they put on an absolute clinic against the Bears in Week 3. At one point, they were up 41-0. Holy sheep shat, Batman, call 911. And while the opponent was certainly subpar, the defense put on another suffocating performance, holding Justin Fields to 11 of 22 for 99 yards, 1 garbage time touchdown, and an interception. The Chiefs scored touchdowns on their first 3 of 4 possessions, with Jerick McKinnon scoring a couple through the air and CEH punching one in on the ground. Patrick Mahomes was brilliant all game, going 24 of 33 for 272 yards and 3 touchdowns, which honestly should have been 4, but an illegal formation penalty on Jawan Taylor, they started to hone in on him, wiped away a 50-yard MVS touchdown. But nonetheless, the Chiefs went into halftime up 34-0. Then after a Mahomes to Kelsey red zone connect to put KC up 41-0, Andy Reid pulled the plug on the starters, and that, hilariously, is when the Bears finally managed to score some points, getting a late field goal as well as a touchdown. Oh yeah, and I guess there was a really big star in the crowd who came to watch Travis Kelce. She was sitting next to Taylor Swift. Her name is Donna. Jokes aside, this was the first game that Taylor was in attendance, for what that's worth, with the mainstream media losing their minds over it, and all the dads, Chads, and Brads crying real tears over it like sensitive, overgrown toddlers. Anyway, Taylor and the gang then flew out to New York for a Sunday night match against the Aaron Rodgers-less Jets, and it looked like the Chiefs' offense was picking up right where it left off the week prior. Isaiah Pacheco broke off a 48-yard touchdown run in his home state, and this may have been his best game of the season. He finished with 115 yards and that touchdown on 20 carries, as well as 3 receptions for 43 yards. Noah Gray got open and scored on this 34-yard touchdown, but this is when things started to take a wee bit of a turn. Jawan Taylor was flagged for a face mask penalty near the end zone, or very near it, resulting in a safety, and the Jets scored a field goal, making it 17-5. Look out. Mahomes then threw an uncharacteristic interception, and the Jets capitalized as Zach Milfson found an open CJ Uzomah for 6. But do you want to know why he was so open? It's because Justin Reid tripped on Mike Dana's helmet trying to cover him. What the hell kind of voodoo is Aaron Rodgers pulling up in his suite? Well, he was clearly controlling Zach Wilson's body somehow, because the mother lover himself fired a missile to Allen Lazard for the score. Then, on the 2-point conversion, this man evaded multiple defenders to convert and tie the game at 20 apiece. The Chiefs then put together a 14-play drive before stalling in the red zone, and a Butker field goal put them ahead 23-20. Thankfully, wannabe Vice President Aaron Rodgers and his voodoo darkness retreat magic wore off on the next drive as Zach Wilson mishandled the snap and Turk Wharton recovered it, giving the ball back to KC. And with over 7 minutes left on the clock, the Chiefs milked it via a very long 15-play drive, thanks in part to Patrick Mahomes using his legs multiple times and Sauce Gardner holding MVS on 3rd and 20. That flag, by the way, revealed Robert Saleh to be exactly what we thought he was, a roid-raging lunatic. But it didn't matter because the Chiefs walked away on top and moved to 3-1. It was then time to head to Minneapolis for a Week 5 matchup against the Vikings. This was a good game throughout as both teams went back and forth, and the game was tied at 13 apiece by halftime. The real story of this game, though, is Travis Kelce going down with a non-contact ankle injury late in the second quarter. Freaked me out. He made a routine grab and tried turning upfield, but collapsed and immediately grabbed at his leg/ankle area. He went to the sideline and was visibly frustrated when trying to shake it off, appearing to be in a lot of pain. Well, he eventually went back to the locker room to get it checked out, and many on social media were speculating all kinds of things, from an Achilles injury to a severe ankle sprain. But either way, all of Chiefs Kingdom was holding their breath. That is until the Chiefs' second drive of the second half, when Kelce returned and went Super Saiyan, catching 5 passes for 45 yards on that drive alone. That included an insane helmet catch, a crucial pickup on 3rd down, and a touchdown that put the Chiefs on top 27-13. So, potential disaster averted. The Vikings did score again to make it a 7-point game, but KC was able to hold them off and get the dub thanks to strong showings from Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and L'Jarius should-be first-team All-Pro Sneed, who held Justin Jefferson to just 3 catches for 28 yards. From here, I got to get to a game involving an opponent that the Chiefs have been able to basically sleepwalk against and still dominate since Obama was still in office. But before I do, I've got to tell you about the delicious sponsor of today's video, Good Chop. They deliver customizable boxes of high-quality meat and seafood that are vacuum sealed and flash frozen at at peak freshness so you can stock your freezer and cook on your schedule. My family eats a ton of protein with every meal, and the fact that we can choose from over 70 high-quality cuts and have it shipped to our door to save both time and money is incredibly helpful. We've been using Good Chop for over 6 months now, and they have not let us down yet. My girls love the thick-cut bacon. The ground beef made some excellent burgers. The marbling and the steaks this go-around kept them juicy as ever, and the Gulf shrimp paired perfectly with them per usual. Then I had their steelhead trout for the first time ever today, and it was fantastic. I also love that Good Chop sources its meat and seafood from American farms and fisheries. Their meat comes with no antibiotics or added hormones ever, and they believe in their quality so much that they offer a 100% money-back guarantee. So either love Good Chop or get your money back. And to get your box of customized high-quality American meat and seafood, as well as show support for the channel, go to goodchop.com/YouTube and use code HBTC120, or click the link in the description down below to get $120 off across your first 4 boxes today. Again, that's goodchop.com/YouTube and use code HBTC120 to get $120 off across your first 4 boxes. All right, after that win, the 4-1 Chiefs headed back home to face the Broncos on Thursday Night Football. The defense put on another masterclass against the Donkeys, holding them to under 200 total yards of offense. Russell Wilson was sacked 4 times and held to just 95 passing yards. Mr. Wolverine Blood also threw 2 INTs, first to Nick Bolton, who snagged it out of the air. Then later in the third quarter, Willie Gay tipped the pass and Justin Reed came down with it to force the turnover. And although the Chiefs offense was able to move the ball pretty consistently, they really struggled finishing drives and executing in the red zone, going just 1 for 5, with their 1 touchdown being caught by Kadarius Toney, of all people, his only score of the season. Despite the red zone troubles, Travis Kelce had a monster game, catching 9 balls for 124 yards, with the real MVP of the game, Harrison Butker. He was 4 for 4 on field goals, even hitting a 60-yarder right before halftime. The Chiefs were able to survive some late-game life from the Broncos offense via this hell of a catch by Cortland Sutton, holding to win 19-8. Wasn't the prettiest of games, but a win is a win is a win is a win. And this one was especially sweet, as it was the 16th consecutive victory over the dongless Donkeys from Denver. And speaking of tough games against divisional opponents, Justin Herbert and the Chargers came into town for a Week 7 shootout, for the first half anyways. This one was really a tale of 2 halves for both offenses. After the Chargers punted on the opening series, the next 6 drives resulted in points for both teams. First, they traded a pair of field goals to make it 3-3. Then Mahomes escaped the pocket and hit MVS on this 46-yard touchdown strike. Joshua Kelly broke off a 49-yard touchdown run to tie it back up at 10 apiece. Then Mahomes found Rashee Rice in the back of the end zone to retake the lead. Then, after Justin Herbert connected with Joshua Palmer for 60 yards, gag, he hit Gerald Everett in the end zone to make it 17-all. Mahomes decided to end the scoring streak, though, underthrowing Mecole Hardman, and Asante Samuel Jr. made a nice play on the ball. However, after forcing a Chargers punt, the Chiefs drove down the field and scored a touchdown before halftime via Travis Kelce being pushed backwards into the end zone with the ball held high over his head. I'm not gonna lie, the second half of this game was pretty ugly, with just 7 total points being scored after a first half that was full of scoring, but that is also a tip of the cap to both defenses and a little bit of offensive struggles for the Chiefs. A couple things to note in this game: Charles Omenihu made his season debut after being suspended for the first 6 weeks of the year, and he had a nice showing, recording a sack and 1 tackle for loss. Also making his debut, or his second stint debut, was Mecole Hardman, who the Chiefs traded for before the trade deadline from the New York Jets. Mecole waited until the fourth quarter to make an impact, but what an impact it was. The Chiefs were up 24-17 with 8 minutes left in the fourth, and were looking for the kill shot. Well, they forced a Chargers punt, and Mecole Hardman then had a phenomenal return, taking it down the sideline for 50 yards all the way to the Chargers' 35. Then on that same drive, just a few plays later on 3rd and 6, Mahomes connected with Mecole over the middle for exactly 6 yards, picking up a crucial first down, which set up a Pacheco screen pass for a score the very next play. That put the game out of reach for LA, and the Chiefs won 31-17, moving to 6-1 on the year. The next game, however, makes me sick. Yes, even sicker than Mahomes was the night before the game, when it was reported that he was dealing with flu-like symptoms, even receiving IVs in an attempt to be ready to go by kickoff. Well, he was indeed ready, but clearly not at his best as he proceeded to have one of his worst games in a Chiefs uniform. It's not all on him as the offense was pretty piss poor in this game, including the coaching/play calling. We're going to get to that. Here we go. The Chiefs went 3-and-out to start the game, and the Broncos scored on their first possession with Javonte Williams scoring on a clever play design. The Chiefs then put together a 12-play drive, but were stifled at the 3-yard line and had to settle for 3. A couple drives later, Mahomes found MVS over the middle of the field, who fumbled after the catch with the Broncos recovering. Tier 3 receiver Jerry Jeudy then made a great leaping catch, and 2 plays later, Jeudy scored to put the Broncos up 14-3. Mahomes then rifled a ball intended for Kelsey, but was picked off by Jaquan McMillan. A very ugly sequence for KC. Then Drew Tranquill had a hell of a stop on Russell Wilson on 4th and 2, resulting in a turnover on downs that KC was able to turn into a field goal. After that, both teams traded strip sacks, with Mahomes taking his first turn. Then on the next possession, George Karlaftis knocked the ball out of Russell Wilson's hand, giving it right back to KC with 9 seconds left in the half. Harrison Butker was able to boot a 56-yarder, his third and final field goal of the day, to make the score 14-9 at the break. On the opening Denver drive to start the third quarter, Karlaftis and Omenihu nearly incinerated Wilson on 3rd down, and Justin Reed made an incredible play to block their field goal attempt. That victory was short-lived, though, because a bit later, Mecole Hardman muffed this punt, setting Denver up for a Cortland Sutton touchdown 2 plays later. So with the Chiefs down 21-9, they rallied together and began the comeback attempt. I mean, surely Mahomes and company will find a way to pull this off, right? They've beat the Broncos 16 times in a row. It's going to be 17. Well, not if Sky Moore has anything to say about it, because after an 11-play drive that had KC once again knocking on the door, they were facing 4th and 2 in Denver territory when Mahomes uncorked a perfectly placed ball into the very hands of Sky Moore, who watched it go right through, unable to haul it in. This was pretty much the kiss of death in this game as Mahomes threw up a prayer with under 2 minutes to go that was picked off. That was all she wrote. The Chiefs' 16-win streak over the Broncos was officially put to an end. Still depressed about it. So congratulations, Broncos fans. This whole time, all you needed to beat Patrick Mahomes was a flu-like miracle. Yes, I'm still bitter they lost to such a horrible team. And with that, the now 6-2 Kansas City Chiefs headed to Germany to square off against former Chief Tyreek talks way too much Hill and the also 6-2 Miami Dolphins. Some were even calling this one an AFC Championship preview, one of the most anticipated games of the regular season. Right off the bat, it looked like we may be in for a good one as the Chiefs drove down the field with Mahomes making throws all over the place, eventually tossing a screen to Rashee Rice, who raced it in for the first score of the day. So here we go. This is what the people came to see. A shootout between two of the most explosive offenses in the league. Well, unfortunately for Mother Germany and all NFL fans around the globe, this game turned into a punter's wet dream. Both teams traded 7 consecutive punts before we finally saw some action late in the second quarter when the Chiefs finally pushed the ball down the field. Mahomes found a wide-open Jerick McKinnon to cap off a 13-play, 95-yard drive that put the Chiefs up 14-0. The Dolphins now needed some kind of spark to get back into this game. So what do? Well, you get the ball into the hands of your playmaker. Throw it to Tyreek Hill, the man who said he would be the Chiefs' worst nightmare on that day that they finally played each other. You know, that guy. So they did just that, throwing a little bubble screen to him, but Trent McDuffie zeroed in on him and ripped the ball away from him in his little T-Rex arms. Mike Edwards then scooped it up and pitched it like a maniac to Brian Cook, who ran like a villain from a Scooby-Doo movie all the way to the end zone. An unbelievable play, one of the best of the entire year for the Chiefs. So thank you, Tyreek Hill, for giving all of Chiefs Kingdom one more unforgettable highlight. And while the Dolphins did manage to make it a game in the second half, scoring a couple of touchdowns and bringing it to within 7, in the end, Tua, noodle arm, tug a violin, muffed a snap on 4th down, turning the ball over on downs and giving the Chiefs a big, fat, glorious German dub. So really, it was another game in which the defense proved themselves to be elite, holding the #1 rated Dolphins offense to under 300 yards and just 14 points. Meanwhile, the Chiefs offense went completely AWOL for multiple stretches throughout this game. The second half drives were as follows: punt, fumble, punt, kneel down, gag, needing a defensive turnover to win the ball game. Mahomes was just 20 for 30 with 185 yards, though he did throw 2 touchdowns. And as the Chiefs headed into their Week 10 bye week, the defense's dominance and the offense's struggles continued to be a real storyline surrounding this team. You'll see what I mean. Back from the bye for Week 11, the Chiefs returned for the Super Bowl rematch against the Eagles on MNF. Monday Night Football, a matchup between the 1 seed from each conference at this point and time. It was a rainy night in KC, and neither team looked completely in sync throughout. Both teams went 3 and out to start the game. Then Kansas City broke the seal with Mahomes stepping up in the pocket to find a wide open Justin Watson in the end zone. Philly responded with a touchdown of their own as Devontae Smith and DeAndre Swift, nice rhyme, pretty much carried the entire drive. On their next possession, though, L'Jarius Sneed, aka the wide receiver 1 killer, had a great interception on a pass intended for A.J. Brown, who did basically nothing all game long. Mahomes thought that interception looked like fun, though, and decided to throw his own on the next drive, with Kevin Byard picking it off in the end zone, which really sucked to see. Neither team did anything with the turnovers, though, and it wasn't until a couple drives later when the Chiefs finally scored again, thanks in part to a wild Kadarius Toney punt return, as well as a vintage Mahomes to Kelce quick score in the red zone. The Eagles went 3 and out, and the Chiefs were able to put a field goal on the board, making it 17-7 at halftime. It looked like the Chiefs were in control of this one, and with the defense playing so well, all the offense needed to do was show a pulse, a little bit of life, and they would surely walk away with the dub. Well, that's when the offense decided to completely flatline. Jalen Hurts rushed this touchdown in to make it a 3-point game. Then after the Chiefs drove all the way down the field and into the red zone, Travis Kelce had the ball punched out and the Eagles recovered. Jalen Hurts then threw a dime to Devontae Smith, who was tackled at the 1 freaking yard line. And we all know what happens next. The tush push, the brotherly shove, the Jalen Hurts my soul to watch easy touchdown. So with that, the Eagles took the lead 21-17. But with 6 minutes and 20 seconds left in the game, there was still plenty of time for Mahomes and the offense to turn it on. And if by on, you mean go 3 and out, then hell yeah, they turned that baby all the way on, punting it right back to the Eagles, who were thankfully forced to punt it right back shortly afterwards. Okay, now we got him right where we want him. Victory in sights, Patrick Mahomes with the ball. 3 minutes left in the game, down by 4, chance to win it. I like the chances. Well, after an uncharacteristic drop on 3rd and 2, Kelce converted on 4th and 2 to keep the drive alive. Then a 13-yard connect with Kelce plus a roughing the passer call on Fletcher Cox moved the Chiefs all the way up to the 49-yard line. And then on 2nd and 10, the Chiefs decided to take a shot downfield with Mahomes dropping back and firing an absolute perfect pass to MVS, who had a couple steps on his defender, but decided to try to leap at the ball. Couldn't reel it in, dropping what would have been the go-ahead touchdown. The fans in the stadium could not believe it. Patrick Mahomes could not believe it. Nobody could believe it, but sadly, it was reality. Then on 3rd and 10, Mahomes committed intentional grounding when trying to avoid a sack, making it 4th and 25. Just like earlier in the season, 4th and 25, I hate that combo. Even though it was highly unlikely the Chiefs were going to convert here, somehow Mahomes threw a missile right into the hands, the mitts of Justin Watson, who couldn't hang on to it, maybe because of the weather. Who really knows? But either way, that ended the ball game with the Eagles winning 21-17 after the Chiefs offense failed to score a single point in the second half for the 2nd week in a row. To make matters even worse, Eagles coach Dick, aka Prick Sirianni, felt compelled to run his little yapper to Chiefs fans on his way to the locker room, revealing him to be who we knew he was, a spineless man-child who is mentally malnourished. Well, if you don't believe in karma, you should now, because not only is he the guy on the Chiefs, but the Eagles went 2-5 after that game, then proceeded to get wiped by the Bucs in the wild card round. See ya! Freaking idiot. Anyway, the story at this point in the season for KC was continued struggles on offense, the wide receivers not being able to catch the damn ball, and the defense proving themselves over and over to be one of the best in the entire league. The team really needed a little bounce back game to regain their mojo, so thank God the next game on the schedule was against the glorified Pee-wee football team known as the Las Vegas Raiders. I will say though, this game started out a bit scary with the Raiders taking a very early 14-0 lead. Jacoby Myers had a nice run after the catch for their first touchdown. Then a few possessions later, Josh Jacobs, he broke loose for a 63-yard touchdown to put them up 2 scores, which was disgusting to watch. Finally, though, the offense came to life as Mahomes spread the rock around like a dealer in a crack house, connecting with 4 different receivers on the drive before Pacheco punched it in from a yard out. A couple drives later, Mahomes threw a dime to Kelce for 27 yards. Then Andy Reid dug deep down into his bag and pulled out this little double reverse flea flicker, and Mahomes hit Kelce again for 23 more. Then on 3rd and goal, Mahomes had all the time in the world and found Justin Watson for 6, who shot up and talked his ish to Jack Spillane after he leveled him early on in his route, and Justin did not appreciate that. That tied things up, though, and shortly after halftime, the Chiefs scored again after a little Mahomes magic to Rashee Rice, then a screen pass to Pacheco, who was just short of the goal line, but punched it in a play later to make it 21-14 Chiefs. And while the Raiders would kick a field goal to bring it within 4, it wouldn't matter, because on 3rd and 5, Rashee Rice caught this little crosser and turned it upfield, racing into the end zone for an electric 39-yard touchdown. You could then hear the fat lady beginning to warm up her vocal cords as KC kicked a field goal just for fun and got the divisional dub over the Raiders in Allegiant Stadium, which wouldn't be the last win in that stadium this season. More on that later. Several guys here had big games. Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey, then Rice, real game changer for the day. He caught 8 balls for 107 yards and that 139-yard touchdown. He led the team in targets, receptions, receiving yards, and also set a new career high for himself in all 3 categories. So there you go. The Chiefs got that bounce back dub and moved on to 8-3 on the year. So fresh off that win over the Raiders, KC took their talents to Green Bay for a little Sunday night matchup against the Cheeseheads. Go Pack Go got the party started first, scoring 2 touchdowns on their first 2 possessions of the game. It was looking a little rough there for the defense. Meanwhile, the Chiefs had to settle for field goals on their first couple of series, leaving us with a score of 14-6 at the half. The Chiefs finally started coming alive with a couple of nice Travis Kelce catches that moved them into Packers territory. Then Isaiah Pacheco and Rashee Rice got them all the way down to the 1, with Pacheco finishing it off. He was stood up on the 2-point conversion, though, and the score was 14-12. On this next drive, AJ Moose of a man Dillon caught this pass, making Leo Chanel miss, and Brian Cook attempted to make the tackle, but suffered a very gruesome injury that we're not showing on screen. His ankle turned over 180 degrees the wrong direction. That left him writhing in pain. He had to get carted off the field, and while he somehow did not fracture anything per reports, he would end up missing the rest of the entire season on IR because of it. So, a tough deal for Brian Cook and a big blow to the Chiefs secondary. The Packers then converted this ludicrous 4th and 1 after Jordan Love heaved up a rainbow of a prayer to Romeo Doubs, and he somehow came down with this pass despite being surrounded by Chiefs defenders. Madness. Christian Watson then mossed Josh Williams in the end zone, and the Packers made it a 2-possession game, 21-12. The entire 53-man roster then pushed Isaiah Pacheco to a first down, and Noah Gray caught this touchdown from Mahomes to make it 21-19. The Packers answered back with a field goal, and with 6 minutes left in the game, the Chiefs did have a chance to go down and take the lead with the score. Touchdown to be exact, and that is precisely what they would not do. Sort of the theme of the season so far as the fourth quarter comebacks were concerned. The third play of the drive, Sky Moore decided to stop running his route, causing Mahomes to overthrow him, resulting in a INT. The Chiefs would get another chance to at least tie things up, though, getting the ball back after the Packers had to settle for 3 again. They got a little help from the officials here when on 2nd and 10, Mahomes took off running and got blasted by Jonathan Owens, who was called for unnecessary roughness, giving the Chiefs an additional 15 yards. It was a bang-bang play, with many saying that should not have been called, but we'll take it, please, and thank you. However, something I was not thankful for was the rest of this game and how it played out. Isaiah Pacheco decided to throw a punch and get disqualified. Then the refs decided not to call a blatant PI call after MVS was tackled trying to catch the ball. And honestly, the refs were flat out terrible down the stretch here for both teams. You had the late hit call on Mahomes, the should have been PI on Green Bay. Then here, after this MVS catch and him fighting to get out of bounds, the clock should have kept running as he was pretty clearly still going backwards. But such is life, and the Chiefs failed to make anything happen, throwing an unsuccessful Hail Mary and losing to the Packers 27-19. So with that, the once 6-1 Kansas City Chiefs became the 8-4 Kansas City Chiefs. This next game is one that will probably never be forgotten, and for all the wrong reasons. And that is this next matchup against the Buffalo Bills. Yes, we all know what happened at the end with Kadarius Toney lining up offsides and perhaps one of the greatest plays of all time getting wiped off the board because of it. Before that whole mess, the Chiefs found themselves down 14-0 for the second time in 3 weeks, but also battled back into the game and had a chance to win it at the end. On the Chiefs' opening drive, Bills defensive end AJ Epineza made a great play, batting the ball up in the air and coming down with the interception. Then later in the first quarter, Josh Allen rifled a ball to James Cook for the first touchdown of the game. The Chiefs went 3 and out, giving the ball back to Buffalo, and Josh Allen made an absolutely ridiculous play here on 4th and 1 to keep the drive alive. Pretty nuts. Then he used his legs on a designed quarterback run to put the Bills up 14-0. The Chiefs appeared to be in danger after being forced to punt yet again, but thankfully the rookie Chamari Connor picked off Josh Allen on 3rd down for his first career interception, giving the ball back to KC. The offense finally got going as Mahomes got multiple receivers involved, matriculating the ball down the field en route to a Jerick McKinnon touchdown run to put the Chiefs on the board. The Bills would kick a field goal to take a 17-7 lead, but a Rashee Rice touchdown would cut that lead down to 3. Momentum appeared to be on the Chiefs' side as the Bills proceeded to go 3 and out, but unfortunately, Rashee Rice had the ball stripped and the Bills recovered. But it's all good because the Chiefs' defense is elite and forced yet another 3 and out. A 27-yard field goal by Butker tied things up at 17, and this is where we find ourselves in clinching time, starfish clinching time if you want to keep it PG. The Bills drove down the field late in the 4th, but were forced to settle for 3, taking a 20-17 lead, giving the ball back to Patrick Mahomes and the offense with just under 2 minutes to go. The drive started out great as Rashee Rice made a terrific back shoulder catch just past the 50. That's where the fun would end, because on 2nd and 10, Mahomes threw to a wide-open Travis Kelce who cut upfield, and then like an absolute psychopath threw a perfect backwards pass to Kadarius Toney near the left sideline, who waltzed into the end zone untouched. One of the most impressive plays I have ever seen on a football field, except Kadarius Toney's big toe was across the line of scrimmage, and the refs called him for offensive offsides, negating the greatness we all had just witnessed. Then, after the Chiefs failed to convert on 3rd and 4th down, they had other chances, mind you. Patrick Mahomes went nuclear on the officials, cussing them out and having to be restrained by teammates and coaches. And while it obviously wasn't the greatest look for Mahomes, you can understand his frustration in some sense, given the fact that from 2000 to 2022, offensive offsides got called an average of 1.9 times per season, and that was the first offensive offsides called in Andy Reid's entire tenure as a head coach. But oh well, what's done is done. Just like the Buffalo Bills' playoff hopes would be later this season after Bills Mafia once again celebrated this cute little regular season win. For now, though, this dropped the Chiefs to 8-5 in a very tough loss that continued to fuel the narratives of the Chiefs' wide receiver room being highly incapable, and it was also around this time they began to clearly lead the league in drops. So after dropping back-to-back L's for the first time this season, the Chiefs looked to bounce back against a terrible 3-10 Patriots team in Foxborough. And with their dynasty over and Belichick soon to get fired, I'll keep this one a little more brief because nobody cares about this pathetic team anymore. A couple of standout players from this game was CEH and Rashee Rice. CEH got the start for the 2nd week in a row after Pacheco had shoulder surgery following an injury he sustained against the Packers in week 13. And while CEH wasn't the most productive on the ground, rushing 13 times for only 37 yards, he had a couple very impressive plays as a pass catcher. First, he caught this screen, taking it upfield, breaking a tackle, staying in bounds, and fighting for extra yardage for a 48-yard gain. Then in the 3rd quarter, the Chiefs were set up nicely in the red zone after Bailey Zappi threw a perfect pass to Willie Gay. Mahomes then made some magic happen, avoiding the sack, and chucked one up for the 5'7" CEH, who climbed the ladder and came down with it for this incredible score. As for Rashee Rice, he led the team in targets with 9, receptions with 9, yards with 91, and also scored a touchdown off a very interesting play design with Mahomes, McKinnon, and Blake Bell all in a 3-point stance in the backfield, and McKinnon taking the direct snap, flipping it to Rice, who waltzed in the end zone unscathed. So while those two had strong performances, a player who did not have a strong performance or strong hands was wide receiver Kadarius Toney. Yep, just 1 week after his offensive offsides call that killed the Chiefs' potential game-winning drive, Toney followed it up with one of the worst drops I've seen. The ball hit him right in the hands, and he bobbled it right into an awaiting Patriots defender's arms. It was pretty similar to the pick 6 against the Lions week 1. And while it didn't impact the outcome of the game, Patrick Mahomes was visibly pissed off on the sideline. The Chiefs were up 27-10 when this happened late in the game, so meh. Game over. Chiefs win in spite of Toney's greasy hands, and thanks to Rashee Rice, CEH, and another great effort by the defense. I will also note this was the last time Kadarius Toney played in a game. He spent most of the season on the injury report, took to IG via a rant saying he wasn't hurt, got removed from the injury report late in the postseason, and then was a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl. More on that later though, because Kadarius Toney's drop in that game was actually so bad that Santa Claus decided to heap a massive pile of, you know what, we'll just call it coal, onto all of Chiefs Kingdom on Christmas Day against the Raiders at Arrowhead. I should have known we were in for a long day when the Chiefs offense went 3 and out on their first 2 drives, combining for a total of negative 18 yards. But no, I held on to hope. It's the Raiders after all, even though the Chiefs went scoreless in the first quarter and were down 3-0 in the second. What really made me hopeful was seeing Travis Kelce taking this screen and stiff-arming a Raider into Middle Earth as his girlfriend cheered him on in the stands. Isaiah Pacheco, who was back after a 2-week absence, took the direct snap and faked the reverse to Mahomes. Then, thanks to a couple of nice blocks from MVS and Wanye Morris, found the end zone to put KC up 7-3. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed that little play because it would be the last bit of joy we would feel all day. On the first play of the Chiefs' next drive, they decided to go back to the Pacheco direct snap tactic, and he appeared to attempt a handoff to Mahomes, but they muffed the exchange, and the Raiders scooped it up and went in for the score. All right, that sucked, and whoever decided to run that trick play that deep in their own territory, talking about one of the coaches, deserved to be locked up for 48 hours with no food. But no worries, shake it off and move on. Well, on the very next play, Mahomes rolled out and threw to Justin Watson, but Jack Jones, that little Grinch, jumped it and picked it off, taking it to the house. So the Chiefs were up 7-3, and in literally 2 plays found themselves down 17-7. One of the most insane sequences I've ever seen, and unfortunately, the Chiefs were on the wrong side of it. Now, here's something crazy. Raiders quarterback Aiden O'Connell did not complete a single pass after the first quarter, yet somehow the Raiders still won this game. That was the first time since 2000 that an NFL team won without a completion over the final 3 quarters. You can't blame the defense at all. They held the Raiders to just 6 points of offense and 205 total yards, and that's enough to get you a win in the NFL 99.98% of the time. I would say this clearly was the lowest point of the season for KC, a brutal loss to a division rival at home on Christmas Day. There's no excuses either. The defense is elite and had been carrying the entire team this whole year, which is not something that we as Chiefs fans are used to in the Mahomes era. Turnovers, dropped passes, and penalties had plagued the offense all season, and this game is where it all came to head. So, while this was the lowest point, we would soon find out that it was also the turning point because the 10-6 Chiefs didn't lose another game the rest of the season, including the playoffs. The team then licked their wounds and shifted their attention to the Burrow-less Bengals, who had actually been playing better than expected after losing Burrow for the season with a torn ligament in his wrist. His backup Jake Browning was playing well and had a nice game in this one also. He used his legs multiple times on their opening drive to set them up for a field goal. Meanwhile, the Chiefs' first drive was all Isaiah Pop Pacheco. He took this one up the gut for 9, then exploded for a 35-yard gain up the left sideline, and finally caught this wide open 8-yard touchdown to put the Chiefs on the board. Browning then threw this touchdown to Joe Mixon to retake the lead, and sadly, Mahomes was strip-sacked on their following possession. Browning made it happen with his legs once again, scurrying for a first down, then making a Mahomes-esque play on 3rd down, escaping the pocket and finding his tight end for the first. Then on 3rd and goal, he rolled out and decided to take it in himself for the score, putting the Bengals up 17-7. The Chiefs, for whatever reason, seem to love trailing in games. And as a Chiefs fan, it sucks. However, KC started to claw their way back into this thing thanks to Harrison Balls Don't Fit in a 5-gallon bucket Butker, who kicked not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 field goals in a row to help the Chiefs get the win 25-17. The offense struggled mightily to finish drives in the red zone again, so this man went ahead and put the entire team on his back, drilling a 54, 48, 46, and 43-yarder, as well as a couple of chip shots to help KC officially clinch the AFC West for the 8th year in a row. Then, of course, you have to shout out the defense, who completely shut out the Bengals offense in the second half and sacked Jake Browning 6 times, with Justin Reed accounting for 2 of those and George Karlaftis with 1.5. That win, by the way, not only locked up the AFC West for the Chiefs, but also eliminated both the Bengals as well as the Broncos from the playoffs. Oh, sweet, sweet victory. So the Chiefs not only wrapped up the West with the win over Cincy, but they also locked themselves into the number 3 seed, regardless of if they won or lost against the Chargers in Week 18. And with that, the Chiefs made the no-brainer move to sit most of their starters and give them a chance to get as healthy as possible for the playoffs. That's why we don't need to spend a ton of time on this game, unless you guys really want to hear about Blaine Gabbert for a few minutes. However, there are a few things to mention briefly. First off, on the Chargers' first possession of the game, they put together an 18-play drive, getting all the way down to the 5-yard line. And on 3rd and goal, Easton Stick was strip sacked by Charles Omenihu, with Mike Edwards scooping it up and taking it all the way to the house for a 95-yard touchdown, which was somehow the only touchdown scored by either team all game long. Then the other thing to note here is that heading into the game, Chris Jones had 9.5 sacks and needed just a half a sack to trigger a $1.25 million bonus for reaching 10 on the season. Under normal circumstances, Chris Jones would have 100% not played in this game, but Andy Reid let him suit up to try and go get his money. He had multiple pressures on Easton Stick throughout the game and almost got a sack a few different times, but finally, late in the 3rd quarter, Chris Jones got to Easton and secured the bonus $1.25 million cha-ching. He sprinted to the sideline with the entire team chasing him down to celebrate with him, which was pretty hilarious to see. Coaches congratulated him as well, and it was the best case scenario, really. Chris Jones got his money and stayed healthy. For whatever it's worth, the Chiefs also got the win after Blaine Gabbert had a couple of first down scrambles, one for 25 yards and another for 14, and put together a game-winning drive that led to a Butker field goal to get the dub 13-12. What a high-scoring game. So the Chiefs finished the regular season with an 11-6 record, an 8th consecutive AFC West title, and the 3rd seed in the playoffs with a wild card game against the Dolphins on the horizon at Arrowhead. And this matchup against the Dolphins was going to be a warm one, great, perfect weather, where they got to participate in the 4th coldest game in NFL history. The temperature at kickoff was -4 degrees and the wind chill was -27. It was so cold that Andy Reid's mustache started growing booger icicles and a piece of Patrick Mahomes' helmet shattered after getting hit. The Dolphins were already decimated by injury and were without most of their key defenders like Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Xavier Howard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jerome Baker, and more. So yeah, throwing all those injuries on top of it being cold as balls, and Noodle Arm Tua never really stood a chance in this game. The Chiefs took an early lead with Mahomes finding an open Rashee Rice over the middle of the field for the first playoff touchdown of his career. And then after Tua turned the ball over, lofted a perfect pass to Mike Edwards, the Chiefs were able to kick a field goal to go up 10-0 early in the 2nd quarter. The Dolphins' next possession featured their only highlight of the game. On the 2nd play of the drive, Tyreek did what Tyreek does, burning Trent McDuffie and making a great play on the ball, bailing out Tua, by the way, who underthrew him by a mile, then broke a tackle and darted into the end zone to put Miami on the scoreboard. Mahomes then made magic happen on 4th and 4, using his legs to pick up the first down and more, getting all the way to the 10-yard line before stepping out of bounds for a 28-yard gain. Playoff Pat is just different. What's not different is a Jawan Taylor penalty screwing everything up for the Chiefs. Some of that has been targeted, but some of it has been warranted. Rashee Rice should have had his 2nd touchdown of the day after taking the screen pass to the house, but a block in the back on Jawan Taylor took the points off the board, and the Chiefs would have to settle for 3. Miami was feeling frisky and decided to go for it on 4th and 2, but Charles Omenihu got pressure on Tua, and Trent McDuffie strapped up Tyreek Hill, batting the pass away and turning them over on downs. Then after a couple of punts, Mahomes hit Rashee Rice perfectly in stride on 3rd and 10 to pick up 39 yards and set Butker up for his 3rd field goal of the day, as the offense again couldn't finish the job in the red zone. That gave the Chiefs a 16-7 lead at halftime. They picked up exactly where they left off in the 2nd quarter, putting together impressive drives that stalled in the red zone. Kelsey picked up this first down after landing on a Dolphin, getting up and picking up a couple extra yards. Then Mahomes made magic yet again, scrambling for the first and getting all the way down inside the 5 before taking a shot to the dome, which is where a chunk of his helmet flew off because it was so freaking cold. He actually had to get his helmet replaced, and it was so cold it barely fit because it was frozen. Anyway, Butker had to finish the job yet again, kicking his 4th field goal of the game, and thank God for this man. -4 degree temps with the ball hard as a rock, and he came out and didn't miss a kick, going 4 for 4 on field goals and 2 for 2 on extra points. An absolute legend. Another legend is the rookie Rashee Rice, who had another chunk play for 28 yards and helped set up this Isaiah Pacheco touchdown that put the game on ice. Rashee had a massive game in his playoff debut, finishing with 8 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown. That really should have been 2. He led the team in every receiving category, as the next closest was, of course, Travis Kelce, who had himself 71 yards on 7 receptions. Pacheco had a great game also, as they leaned on him a lot in this frigid game, and he finished with 24 carries for 89 yards and a score. Mahomes didn't have the gaudiest numbers, but he managed the game well, throwing for 262 yards and a touchdown, but also had those 2 big runs that accounted for 41 yards in total. The defense also balled out, as Miami didn't score a single point outside of that Tyreek touchdown. One of the top offenses in the NFL. They put up 70 on the Denver Donkeys, okay? Tua was held to under 200 yards. Their leading rusher was Raheem Mostert, who had 33 yards, and their leading receiver was Tyreek Hill, who had 62 yards, but 53 came from them on that one stupid play. So the Chiefs got the dub in dominant fashion, moving on to the divisional round to take on the Bills in Buffalo, where Patrick Mahomes got a chance to play his first ever road playoff game. And that was a big talking point coming into this game. Can Mahomes actually win a playoff game on the road? Well, most people didn't think so, because the Chiefs were 2.5-point underdogs coming in, and many so-called experts really believed that this was the year Josh Allen would finally beat Patrick Mahomes when it mattered. Well, on the first play of the game, the rookie Chamari Connor stripped Stephon Diggs, and while the Bills did recover, it was a nice shot of adrenaline to start the game. Then on the very next play, Josh Allen went right back to Diggs, who got blasted over the middle by safety Mike Edwards, who blasted himself as well and had to leave the game due to a concussion and would not return. And this gave me flashbacks of the last time these two teams played in the playoffs, when Tyrann Mathieu got concussed on the opening drive as well. And that did concern me a bit, considering Brian Cook was obviously already out for the season himself, and linebacker Willie Gay Jr. would also leave the game with a neck injury in the first half, which was less than ideal considering he was the guy that was spying on Josh Allen. Anyway, with that, the Bills drove the ball down the field and thankfully had to settle for 3. Then Rashee Rice picked up where he left off from the week before, catching the ball and racing upfield for a 25-yard gain. Justin Watson couldn't reel in this contested catch on 3rd down though, and the Chiefs matched Buffalo's field goal, tying the game at 3 apiece. The Bills offense then got hot, gouging the Chiefs run defense play after play, with Josh Allen finishing off the drive by rushing into the end zone to make it 10-3 Buffalo. Mahomes then threw a perfect ball to Kelce for a 29-yarder. Rashee Rice moved the chains on 3rd down, but sadly they once again had to settle for a field goal after a couple of misconnects with Kelce and MVS in the end zone, as well as a McCole Hardman fumble that thankfully was recovered by KC. But this sadly wasn't McColl's only fumble of this game, and the later fumble would nearly cost them the game. However, after the field goal, the Chiefs were able to force a Bills punt, and CEH had an incredible run up the right sideline for 28 yards. The Bills defense then forgot, I don't know how, that Travis Kelce exists, and Mahomes found him for a wide open 22-yard touchdown to give the Chiefs the first lead of the game, 13-10. Josh Allen didn't like that though, and the Bills matched that score with another of their own via another Allen scramble for 6. I mean, they were owning the Chiefs in the trenches, and it was getting concerning. But the ghost of MVS decided to join the party, catching this 30-yard beauty of a ball from Mahomes in tight coverage. Mahomes then ran for nearly that amount, and Kelce took this screen and bounced it outside for a short touchdown, his second of the game. And this touchdown officially made Mahomes and Kelce the all-time leaders in playoff touchdowns between a QB and a receiver, passing Tom Brady and Gronk, and also made this a 20-17 game, Chiefs up by 3 in the 3rd quarter. The Bills, however, once again, it's getting annoying by this point, responded, gouging the Chiefs with run after run after run, going 15 plays for 75 yards as Josh Allen threw a dart to Khalil Shakir for a strike left side to finish with another touchdown, and that was actually the first touchdown reception L'Jarius Sneed allowed all year. MVS then proved to us once again why he is the greatest receiver in the history of the game. I apologize, as Mahomes stepped up in the pocket and delivered a strike for a 32-yard pickup. Rashee Rice then brought him close to the goal line, and Pacheco did the rest, barreling in for the score and put the Chiefs up 27-24 at the start of the 4th quarter. The only bad news of this drive was that this is where left guard Joe Thuney suffered a pec strain that kept him sidelined for the rest of the game, as well as the rest of the postseason. But thank God Nick Allegretti exists, and thank God for the water polo champion, the Greek freak George Karlaftis, who batted Josh Allen's pass down on 3rd and 5. They then try to surprise fake punt because, believe it or not, the Chiefs special teams unit only had 10 on the field, but were still able to stop Damar Hamlin short of the 1st down. It was a great stop by KC, but it didn't really matter because shortly after this, McCole Hardman got the ball on a jet sweep, and sadly the ball was knocked out of his hands in the end zone while trying to reach for the goal line, resulting in a touchback and giving the Bills back the football. Depressing. That was the second fumble by McColl this game, and I was definitely over it. The Bills thankfully were forced to punt, this time electing not to fake it, but the Chiefs offense stalled out and the Bills got the ball back with a little over 8 minutes left in the game, trailing by 3. On 3rd and 10, Allen tried to scramble for the first, but had the ball knocked out by Chris Jones, and every man, woman, and child tried to recover this thing, but unfortunately, a Bills lineman was able to fall on it. Shakir was able to pick up the first on 4th down, and the Bills were driving slowly but surely. On 2nd and 9, Josh Allen went for the kill shot, targeting Shakir again, who was open in the end zone, but Chris Jones muscled Deion Dawkins into Allen, disrupting the throw and causing it to fall short, thank God. Allen was then flushed out of the pocket on 3rd down and was forced to throw it away, bringing out Bills kicker Tyler Bass, who at this point in his career was 9 for 9 on field goals in the last 2 minutes of regulation or in overtime when trailing by 3 points or fewer. And yet, God himself sent a gust of wind that had this ball sail wide right, just like in Super Bowl 25 when Scott Norwood missed a 47-yard field goal wide right. Poetic, hilarious, and satisfying. The Chiefs just needed 1 first down to run out the clock, and thanks to Isaiah Pacheco, they got it, along with a big, fat W that resulted in Bills fans crying real tears in the stands and throwing snowballs at Chiefs players that were as inaccurate as Tyler Bass's field goal attempt. Mahomes managed to dodge those snowballs on his way out as he celebrated his first ever road playoff win, the 3rd playoff win over Josh Allen in the playoffs, and the Chiefs advanced to their 6th straight AFC Championship game. That is some GOAT stuff right there. Hats off to the Bills for a great game, I guess. They honestly played really well in spite of a banged up defense, rushing for 182 yards, dominating the time of possession, and running 31 more plays on offense than the Chiefs, which is pretty wild. The Chiefs offense was very efficient overall when they were on the field, slicing and dicing the injured Buffalo defense all night long. Mahomes was 17 for 23 with 215 yards and 2 scores. Kelsey had 5 catches for 75 yards and both of Mahomes' touchdowns. Then Pacheco had another great game, rushing 15 times for 97 yards and a score, averaging 6.5 yards per carry. God bless America. And with that, the Chiefs were Baltimore bound, being listed as underdogs for the 2nd game in a row, this time by 4.5 points against the number 1 seed Ravens in the AFC Championship game. The Ravens got the ball first and were quickly confronted by the Chiefs' elite defense going 3 and out and punting the ball to Patrick Mahomes, who diced them up on their opening drive, connecting with Pacheco, Rice, and then on 4th and 2, Travis Kelce made a great snag to keep the drive alive. A few plays later, Mahomes went right back to Kelce with a beautiful back shoulder throw in the end zone to put the Chiefs up 7. Lamar then did what he does best, ripping off a big gain on 4th and 1. Shortly after that, Lamar danced around in the pocket before launching one to Zay Flowers, who was for some reason being covered by Nick Bolton, and the rookie came down with the grab to tie things up. Mahomes once again carved them up like a Thanksgiving grass-fed, gluten-free vegan turkey, using his legs when needed and finding Rashee Rice for a couple of first downs. Then once again, it was a Mahomes to Kelce connection to keep the drive alive. Mahomes scrambled around in the pocket and lofted it to Kelce, who made a phenomenal leaping grab for the first down. You love to see it. Pacheco then finished the job, rushing in for the score to put KC up 14-7. Now, on the Ravens' next drive, Lamar was taking his time looking for an open receiver when Charles Omenihu came and strip-sacked that man, and George Karlaftis was able to recover it. This was sadly, though, the last impactful play Charles Omenihu would make in this game or for the rest of the season, as he suffered a torn ACL a bit later and would later need surgery. It's a tough loss, but this was a huge play by Omenihu that put the Chiefs in position to go up 21-7 or at least 17-7. Well, after picking up 1 first down, the Chiefs opted to remain aggressive going forward on 4th and 1, but Pacheco was stopped short and the Chiefs turned it over on downs. Lamar Jackson then channeled his inner Marcus Mariota. Chiefs fans know what I mean when I say that name. Catching his own pass after it was deflected by Justin Reed, almost breaking it for a touchdown, but thank God, Drew Tranquill was able to get him from behind. Pause. Chris Jones put an end to that nonsense, though, after this, nearly sacking Lamar on 2nd down. Then on 3rd down, he batted Lamar's pass down and forced a Ravens punt. Both teams played ping pong punt edition after each went 3 and out, ultimately giving the Chiefs the ball with a little under 2 minutes left in the half. Now, An unnecessary roughness and a roughing the passer penalty helped KC move up the field. I can't believe the refs would help the Chiefs again. Then a Mahomes and Kelsey pitch and catch put them within field goal range. Trey Smith then got involved for all the wrong reasons, getting called for back-to-back holding penalties that negated what would have been a Mahomes first down scramble, as well as a Rashee Rice touchdown. So quit whining and crying about the refs, you little babies. It normally evens out. Thankfully, though, Harrison Butker came in and drilled a 52-yarder to put the Chiefs up 17-7 at the half. Andy Reid apparently then told the offense in the locker room, hey guys, don't worry about scoring any more points. Save your energy and let our elite defense carry us to Super Bowl 58. And like the coachable young men they are, they heeded Big Red's instructions. Someone who did not get to conserve energy, though, was Tommy Townsend, because aside from the Chiefs' final drive of the game, they punted on every one of their possessions in the second half. So I'll save you the snooze fest and fast forward to the end of the third quarter, where Lamar uncorked one to a wide open Zay Flowers, who got the Ravens all the way up to the 10-yard line. However, the rookie decided to activate idiot mode and taunted L'Jarius Sneed, spinning the ball by his head after the catch, which resulted in a 15-yard penalty that he would soon regret. Flowers did help them get right back to the 10 a couple plays later, but then, as the wise poet Taylor Swift once said, karma is the guy on the Chiefs, and karma did indeed inflict its damage upon Zay as he caught a shallow crosser, turning upfield and diving for the end zone, but L'Jarius Sneed punched the ball out, timing it perfectly, and forced a fumble that Trent McDuffie was able to recover. Nicely done, Zay. You're the rookie of the year in my book. This was arguably the biggest play of the game, so thank you, Sneed, and McDuffie as well for jumping on that ball. The Chiefs' drive stalled out once again, though, and Tommy Townsend punted a perfect ball that Justin Watson corralled at the 1-yard line. God bless him. That forced the Ravens to need to go 99 yards if they wanted 6. They actually went for it on 4th and 3 from their own 18 like lunatics, with OBJ catching the quick pass to move the chains. Aguilar snagged a 39-yard pass shortly after, and then Ravens running back Lamar Jackson made a big mistake when he decided to throw into triple coverage, and safety Deion Bush picked him off in the end zone. This was the second time now the defense wiped touchdowns off the board. The Chiefs offense, sadly though, was the Chiefs offense and went 3 and out, with the Ravens able to move the ball just enough for a field goal after Chamari Connor got away with a bit of contact on 3rd down, but no flag was called, most likely because Lamar threw it to Egypt rather than an actual target. This was now a 7-point game with 2.5 minutes left, and after the Ravens drained their timeouts, all KC had to do was somehow get a first down on 3rd and 9 to ice the game. That's when the hero that we needed but had all given up on, like everybody had given up on, MVS, came down with one of the biggest catches of his life, a beauty of a throw from Mahomes, with MVS falling on his back and making the catch that would send the Chiefs to another Super Bowl, their 4th Super Bowl appearance in just 5 years. Holy smokes, guys. The script writers went insane on that one. You cannot deny it. Mahomes played a very clean game, going 30 of 39 for 241 yards and a score. Travis Kelce had a monster game, going off for 11 catches, 116 yards and a touchdown, officially passing up Jerry Rice with the most postseason receptions in NFL history. And speaking of Rice, Rashee Rice caught 8 passes for 46 yards, but it really should have been 9 and a touchdown if not for that Trey Smith penalty. On the defensive side of the ball, George Karlaftis balled out, recording 5 QB pressures and a sack. Chris Jones was disruptive throughout, and the entire Chiefs defense dominated, holding the Ravens to just 3 for 11 on 3rd downs and forced 3 turnovers, including 2 pivotal ones at the end of the game. So thank you, NFL world, for doubting the Chiefs. We'll see you in Vegas for another Super Bowl. And crazily enough, despite beating the Bills on the road as underdogs, then going to Baltimore and beating the number 1 seed Ravens as underdogs, the Chiefs were once again underdogs in Super Bowl 58 against the San Francisco 49ers, with them being favored by 1.5. The 49ers then started with the ball and were moving down the field with ease. That is, until Mike Pennell and Leo Chanel forced a CMC fumble. Oh well. You know this video is getting long as hell when I resort to rhyming these lines. Anyway, the Chiefs failed to capitalize on the opportunity, being forced to punt the ball right back. In fact, both teams went scoreless in the first quarter, and it wasn't until early in the second quarter that we saw any points. 49ers kicker Jake Moody broke the ice with his 55-yard field goal, which actually broke the record for the longest field goal in Super Bowl history, a record that I'm sure will live on for a long, long time. KC was finally able to move the ball, getting all the way down to the 9-yard line, but unfortunately, Isaiah Pacheco had the ball stripped out, resulting in a Chiefs turnover, a gut punch of a play in the biggest game of the season. And this is when Travis Kelce furiously came up to Andy Reid on the sideline, startling him and even causing him to lose his balance. He was upset because Andy took him out on that play, and Kelce wanted to be in there to help his team. He did reportedly go back pretty much very quickly after this and apologize to Andy, and Andy seemed unfazed by it all, as he obviously knows Travis is just uber competitive and wants to help his team win. Later on in the second quarter, the 49ers put the first touchdown on the board shortly after a personal foul on L'Jarius Sneed, and also thanks to this stupid trick play in which Brock Purdy threw a screen to Jawan Jennings, who threw it back across the field to Christian McCaffrey, who was able to sprint into the end zone untouched. A clever play that was well executed and ultimately put the 49ers up 10-0. Woo! Mahomes then made some magic happen, throwing across his body to Justin Watson to get into the Niners territory. A couple of quick slants to Rashee Rice got the Chiefs all the way up to the 14. But the Niners D held strong, pancaking Mahomes on 3rd and 5, I think it was, forcing a Chiefs field goal that brought the score to 10-3 at the half. Things could not have started out any worse for the Chiefs in the second half either, as Pacheco mishandled this pitch that was thrown behind him a little bit, losing 12 yards. Then on 3rd down, Mahomes proceeded to throw a pretty costly interception that set the 49ers up nicely in Chiefs territory. Thankfully, though, the Chiefs defense stepped up and forced a crucial 3-and-out. In fact, both teams proceeded to go 3-and-out after that drive, feeling inspired by one another. Then Mahomes said, "F it, I'll do it myself," rushing for 22 yards. That was just enough to set Harrison Butker up for a 57-yard field goal attempt. Well, I hope Jake Moody enjoyed his Super Bowl record while he had it, because Butker drilled it, taking over the record and bringing the Chiefs within 4. And this is where things started to shift for the Chiefs, because after both teams went 3-and-out yet again, the Chiefs were forced to punt, and the ball bounced right off of a 49ers special teamer's ankle, just like the scriptwriters wanted, which forced McLeod to try to scoop it up, but Jalen Watson pounced right on it. So let's freaking go, man. That set up a wide open MVS touchdown on the very next play to give the Chiefs their first lead of the game, 13-10. Thank you, MVS. The 49ers answered right back, though, putting together a 12-play drive that featured a gutsy call on 4th and 3 that they converted, with Kittle getting just enough for the first. In fact, the so-called best tight end in football, to the delusional, had just 2 catches for a 4 whole yards all night. I mean, sheesh, that's some GOAT stuff right there. Purdy then threw a strike to Jawan Jennings, who was able to get in for the score to re-give San Francisco the lead. However, Jake Moody's extra point was blocked by Leo Chanel, making the score 16-13 rather than 17-13, and that would ultimately be a disastrous 1-point miss by the Niners. The Chiefs then put together a 12-play drive of their own, with Mahomes finding Travis Kelce for 16 yards, then again for another first down. Justin Watson got involved down the sideline for 25, and back-to-back Pacheco runs brought them back up to the 3. But speaking of 3, they depressingly had to settle for 3 as the Niners defense held strong again. Those annoying little men. Okay, they're not little, but with the score tied at 16 apiece, the Niners were able to matriculate the ball down the field, draining the clock all the way down to the 2-minute warning. And things were looking a bit dire here for KC, because if the Niners got a first down here on 3rd and 4, they could have potentially drained the clock and kicked a game-winning field goal, or at the very least take most of the clock from KC. Well, not if Trent McDuffie had anything at all to say about that, as he perfectly timed his blitz and batted Brock Purdy's pass down. That forced the Niners to try a 53-yard field goal, which Moody was actually able to hit again. Another big kick by the kicker, and that put them up 19-16, and left the Chiefs with just under 2 minutes in the game, 2 timeouts. They had to drive down the field to tie it up or win it all. Well, spoiler alert, that's way too much time for Mahomes and company, who has shown in the past they only need 13 seconds. Therefore, they did what they almost always do in the playoffs with the game on the line, and that is march down the field, thanks to Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jerick McKinnon, and then Travis Kelce again on a big 22-yard gain via this shallow crosser that had him moving as fast as vintage Kelce from like 2016. That brought KC to the 11 with just 10 seconds left in regulation, and left Mahomes with just 1 chance to throw to Kelce, a throw made tough by a low snap from Humphrey, and KC didn't risk another play, opting instead to bring Butker out and kick a field goal that tied the game at 19 and forced just the second overtime in Super Bowl history. history. Coin toss it is. The 49ers won the toss and elected to receive, which was very interesting because of the new playoff overtime rules. These rules guarantee a possession for both teams, regardless of the outcome of the initial drive, which is why most teams in theory would prefer to defer and see how the opening drive goes for the opposing team. That's why Mahomes, Kelsey, and everyone else on the Chiefs over there were pleasantly surprised when the Niners wanted the ball first, having prepared to defer. The Chiefs, I'm talking about, in case of overtime for weeks. They had meeting after meeting about this. Meanwhile, some San Francisco players didn't even know the overtime rules. These two teams are not the same. So the Niners got the ball first, just like they wanted, and quickly found themselves facing 3rd and 14. But Trent McDuffie got flagged for a questionable holding call after that. That gave the Niners an automatic first down. Ayuk then converted on 3rd and 2, and CMC high-stepped up the left side for 24 more. Purdy then extended the play and hit Kyle Juszczyk for a wild first down with L'Jarius Sneed in coverage. CB1 in coverage on their fullback, and this happened. Crazy. In fact, they were able to move the ball all the way down to the 9-yard line, but Chris Jones got a very timely pressure on Brock Purdy, who was forced to throw the ball away basically on 3rd and 4. So thank you once again, Chris Jones, the wonderful CEO of Sack Nation. And that meant the 49ers had to settle for 3, which then meant the Chiefs could win the game with a touchdown. However, they quickly found themselves needing to convert a crucial 4th and 1 after Pacheco was unable to get a yard on 3rd and 1. In the huddle, it was reported that MVS suggested a play call that Mahomes loved. It involved a play action to Pacheco and had an option throw to Kelsey, shallow on the right side, but Mahomes said, if Bosa bites and Kelsey is covered, he's running it himself, which is exactly what he did to move the chains after that 8-yard scramble. So while MVS deserves a high five for that play suggestion, they needed to take that back when he decided to run backwards for a 4-yard loss, basically right after that. Rashee Rice can have the high five, though, as he took a shallow crosser to the 46-yard line and the first down. Mahomes once again used his legs for a 19-yard run up the middle on 3rd and 1. Clutch. A scramble that was reminiscent, by the way, of the scramble he had near the end of Super Bowl 57 against the Eagles. This put the Chiefs at the 13-yard line, and a quick pass to Kelsey got them to the 3 to set up 1st and goal. And with the Chiefs being just 3 yards away from the first back-to-back Super Bowl wins in the last 20 years, Andy Reid pulled out another version of corn dog, the play that the Chiefs scored 2 touchdowns on against the Eagles in the last Super Bowl. Well, this time, McCole Hardman was the man in pre-snap motion, and honestly, the play was designed as McCole to be window dressing and Jerick McKinnon to get the ball. But Bosa crashed the play, and for some reason, Hardman was left all the way open for an easy touchdown to end it all. Upon catching the ball, McCole blacked out, saying he didn't remember much of what happened, but everyone went crazy, and it was at that moment former Chiefs cornerback Charvarius Ward realized not everything is better over there with the 49ers as the Chiefs stacked up another Lombardi trophy. And man, you want to talk about redemption? McCole Hardman went from sitting on the bench in New York with the Jets to getting traded back to KC and catching the game-winning Super Bowl pass. MVS made several crucial plays in the playoffs as well after struggling mighty in the regular season. Chris Jones went from sitting in a suite Week 1 with his wannabe bodyguard agents to making incredible plays all season long. That part wasn't a surprise. The entire team battled through adversity with the offense struggling more than I've ever seen in the Mahomes era, clawing back thanks a lot of times to the incredible defense to get the job done once again. Mahomes came up extremely clutch when it mattered most, doing enough to win Super Bowl MVP for the third time. He finished the game with 333 passing yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as 9 carries for 66 yards on the ground. Holy smokes. Travis Kelce had a great game as well, catching 9 balls for 93 yards. The defense stepped up when it mattered most. Sneed, dog, McDuffie, dog, everybody. Bark, and they held San Francisco to just 3 for 12 on 3rd downs. All in all, it was an incredible game, ending in a victory that stamped the word Dynasty on the Kansas City Chiefs for the rest of eternity. And that begs the question, can the newly formed Dynasty with the greatest quarterback, tight end, and head coach in the game, along with an incredibly talented and young defense, as well as the best defensive coordinator in football, find a way to win the big game for the 3rd year in a row? Well, with the ever-elusive three-peat in their sights, all we can do is sit back and wait to see what unfolds next season. And on your way out, don't forget to check out the sponsor of today's video, Good Chop. And until next time, let's freaking go. How about those?